This is one of the most important clips that we ever came across.
Okay.
This is a 2-minute clip. It's a 2-minute clip of former President Carter, the late President Carter, with Amy Goodman of Democracy Now!
Can wait before you play this. Okay. No. I was going to say, just pause it. People need to know that his book, Palestine, is exceptionally well done. And it's very firsthand that he wrote it and he was in those meetings. And I highly recommend it. He is definitely an authority on this issue. So I just want to say, like, he knows what he's talking about on this.
Americans know what you have seen.
Americans don't want to know. And many Israelis don't want to know what is going on inside Palestine. It's a terrible human rights persecution that is far transcends what any outsider would imagine. And there are powerful political forces in America that prevents any objective analysis of the problem in the Holy Land. I think it's accurate to say that not a single member of Congress with whom I'm familiar would possibly speak out and call for Israel to withdraw to their legal boundaries or to publicize the plight of the Palestinians, or even to call publicly and repeatedly for good faith peace talks. There hadn't been a day of peace talks now in more than 7 years. So this is a taboo subject, and I would say that if any member of Congress did speak out, as I've just described, they would probably not be back in the Congress the next year.
Who are these forces that you're talking about?
Well, there's an inherent commitment in America, which I share as a Christian, of a deep commitment to make sure that Israel is safe. And that is added on to by the very effective work of the American-Israeli group called AIPAC, which is performing its completely legitimate task of convincing Americans to support the policies of the Israeli government. And AIPAC is not dedicated to peace. They're dedicated to inducing the maximum support in America, in the White House, in the Congress, and in the public media for whatever policies the Israeli government has at a particular time, and they're extremely effective.
Yep. Hasn't changed. Still the same. And by the way, when he wrote that book, the book Palestine, I do not remember when it came out. If somebody would look it up. I mean, I did the audio.
Like 2006 or something like that.
Yeah, I want to say it was like, yeah. I did the audio book a few years ago. He narrates it, which is great. And it was extremely informative. And it was a very good perspective because while it was a historical perspective, it was more contemporary history. But we're talking about him explaining how meetings were with Menachem Begin and Yasser Arafat and all of these like people where, you know, you're really getting a behind the scenes explanation. So when people make comments like the Palestinians have never accepted an offer, well, that's just not true.
Yep.
That's not true. They've never been given a legitimate offer.
Never.
And that is one of the things that I got. And in Jimmy Carter's book in particular, he's very specific about breaking down the timeline of when different offers were made and how that all has gone historically. And he made it very clear they were never given a real offer.
And that is why when you think about what's coming in 2025, you are going to see a lot more of this. This was in Austin, Texas over the weekend. Everything is
that
all
makes
coming
me
together.
so happy, and it makes me so proud that my older son, my boy, is a Texan. I'm so proud to say that he's a Texan. This pleases me. Do you know, is there, like, I know you said Austin, but is there a particular reason this is happening?
I mean,
Like,
I recognize where this area is. I think this is by the University of Texas. So
you think it's a student? It's a student thing?
you look around, these are clearly not students. These are older people, but
well, right. But I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, so is there a particular date or event like that this is, I mean, not that there's not always a reason to having a protest.
Hey, you know what? That's the great thing about what's going on, is that it doesn't really matter. It's kind of irrelevant. It can, the difference between this, I mean, granted, a lot of these things are changing, and it was really interesting because you could see that it was so Texas related, especially with the, you know, with the Mexican guy on horseback and everything. And it's, you know, it just, Texas has a way about themselves that just kind of, it's very unique. It is their own culture, their own style. And I think a lot of people are just kind of catching on. I think there is an opportunity. People recognize the economic war that's going on right now, and they don't get distracted by the culture war. I mean, this could be big.
Well, and I think also that's another example of another community that is very, has a history of being oppressed. So when you talk about like the Mexican community in Texas that are like many of the people there, they're just living where they've always lived. And we just came and drew a border north. People like that generally tend to stand in solidarity with other colonized and oppressed occupied people.
And Omar, you have to understand, Trump isn't there yet. But when he gets there, the pressure has to be relentless. And he, as you said, Jen, is a guy who wants to be loved.
I think he does. I think he does. But here's the problem. So on the one hand, he takes an endorsement by the Muslims.
Yeah.
Okay. He acts like he's seemingly wanting to end what's going on in Ukraine. He talks a good game about he's going to like work shit out with, you know, Zelensky and Netanyahu and get all this shit under control. But then when you look at who he's bringing into his cabinet,
not good.
It does not instill a lot of confidence that that is anything that's actually going to happen. I mean, his cabinet is full of Zionazis and warmongers. And it's a serious problem. So it's like, on one hand, you take the endorsement, obviously you take the endorsement from the Muslims who are clearly looking to you as some sort of escape route from the Democrats, as they made such a big point to do, especially in places like Michigan, where he got that endorsement. But then he brings people in that are all Zion-Nazis. So I don't know, you know, what to think. But then he says things like he wants to win a Nobel Peace Prize. Bringing in people like, you know, Stephen Miller is not conducive to a peace prize.
You know, you even said, you know, we were going to talk about, we'll see what Thursday brings. We were going to, or I wanted to talk about a local issue regarding the Democratic Party. And you said, they're kind of irrelevant now. In a way, they're irrelevant. And so the only thing that they have, yeah, you know, shit's bad when you're kind of hoping that Trump ends up doing something good, even if it's inadvertent.
Well, he's exactly that. He's like that. You don't know what's going to happen.
Nope.
But you could get lucky, and he could do the right thing, even if it's for the wrong reason. It doesn't matter, like a broken clock being right. Look, I have higher hopes. Remember, we had Angela McArdle on here talking about one of the things that they were really pushing for is going to be pardons and clemency for a lot of political prisoners. And we all believe that there's a better opportunity of that happening from Trump than it would have from Kamala.
Yep.
Yeah. The Jew, because the Mizrahi Jews and lived with the Christians and the Muslims, and they were all the Levant people. It's like we have such a screwed concept of that region based on geopolitics that we really have no concept about the actual people, the peoples.
And I do think, Victor, that it is inevitable that there is going to be a major shift in electoral politics in this country. It's just
we need a second party. We don't even have one Labor Party. We have, you know what it is? Like a unibrow. We have a uniparty.